Bay Research Center, and in the current issue of our magazine, there's an article in there about how Dave photographs animals in water, bugs in water. And so Dave's going to show us tonight some examples and exactly how he does it. It's quite unique photography. So Dave.
Thanks, Sonny. All right, so as Sonny mentioned, actually, can everybody hear me okay? Am I close enough to the mic? All right.
Want to use the lapel mic?
No, this is fine. And I'll grab the mic if people can't hear. If you can't hear me in the back, just raise your hand and I'll speak up louder. So I did do an article in this month's magazine, and some of the pictures are going to be the same, but this is more an evolution of how I got to the style of photography that I'm doing. And if Larry was here, he'd be giving me grief about saying that that's on black and white. It's supposed to be on black and white, not in black and white, because that's part of the evolution. I started doing photographs of marine critters because of my job working at the Rookery Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve, and there's been quite the evolution. So this is a bad picture. I have bad pictures in this presentation on purpose because it shows the evolution of learning. How many of you take a perfect picture every time? Okay, let's talk afterwards, and I want to know how you do it. Because I think it's important that people see changes and things like that. So when I first started doing digital photography, it was just a little point and shoot camera. This is through an acrylic tank. Everything is stacked against me. Lots of noise, lots of grain, lots of ick. But again, this is where I started. I had to start capturing images of these fish and these animals for educational purposes and for ID purposes at our learning center. So this one's even worse. But again, this is part of the evolution. The background in all the tanks is black because it helps the fish stand out better. But when you have a shiny fish and you hit it with a lot of flash, you get this. So this is where I started probably 10 years ago. Why am I harassing these critters? My job is to harass high school and college critters and take them out on this boat, and I have a permit that allows me to drag a net along the bottom in our shallower estuaries and bring critters up on board. And because I'm catching all sorts of cool things in our local waters, the permit that I have allows me to bring back things for photography, for educational purposes, and like that. So that's how I got all tangled up in this mess. One of the first tools that I started using was this device called a TP tank, Teaching Photography Tank. It's available from Carolina Biological. I'll get the information to Betty. This is a patented device, which is why it's $55. But it's a really great tool for taking pictures of fish. Because of the V-frame, it kind of gets them pinned in there. So as far as where they can move, it kind of limits it to a degree. So these first sets of pictures will be moving away from the garbage in the aquarium to some decent stuff in the TP tank. I started with a black plastic background and really bright fiber optic lights that are used for microscopes, and started getting better quickly, thankfully. This is a little arrow crab, and one of the advantages of the TP tank is that because the glass is at an angle, you don't have the reflection issue to deal with. And also because I'm using fiber optic lighting from the side, I'm still not dealing with reflections, and that gives me nice clear glass and clear background. And most of these critters that you're going to see are less than 2 or 3 inches long. This one is a little comb jelly, doesn't have stinging cells. This critter is about a ½ inch long. The iridescent colors that you see on it is refraction from the hair, the cilia on the outside of the body. It does produce light, but it's a blue-green light, and it would be very difficult to catch. It would have to be a low-light situation. But the rainbow effect moving down the side of this animal's body is really spectacular. Another variety of jelly. This one would also fit on your pinky nail. One thing that's amazing about this critter, besides the fact that it's a jelly and it does have stinging cells, these stinging cells are not strong enough to hurt you. But one thing that's amazing about it, this little spot here, this little spot here, there's another one on this side and another one there, those are actually eyes. A jelly with eyes. That's pretty cool. Some of the invertebrates that I come across are pretty big. This is called a calico crab. This is a type of crab that most people don't ever get a chance to see. They spend most of their time buried in the sand. Sometimes you'll find parts of their shells that wash up on the beach, but occasionally I pull up a live one and get to take some pretty cool pictures of it. This was in the TP tank. This is our mascot at Rookery Bay. It's called a polka dot batfish. This is a fish that most people haven't ever seen before, but we get them almost every trawl out here. This is a baby one. It was only about 3 inches long. Typically they aren't bright orange like this, but again, being a relatively small fish, this one did fit in the TP tank and it wasn't getting smushed in there or anything like that. But again, that high intensity fiber optic lighting from the side can create some really dramatic effects when you've got brightly colored critters. A baby scrolled cowfish. This one could hide behind a pea. And one of the challenges of an animal like this, besides how small it is actually a really good swimmer. And it doesn't look like it. But when you've got a really small animal, and even if the TP frame is only 2 or 3 inches wide, that's plenty of room for this guy to be zipping around in there. So it takes a lot of pictures to get one that's sharp. Because when you've got an animal that's, you know, 1/3 of an inch wide and it's got 2 inches of depth and you're dealing with macro, getting everything to work is sometimes a small miracle. But tell me that fish isn't a small miracle. If you have fish that cooperate, again, you can get some pretty dramatic lighting. This picture is really nice because for ID purposes, you can count every single ray in that fish's dorsal fin, and that type of information is really important for our biologists who could identify that fish from the picture alone without having to pickle it or kill it or things like that. So this was a fish that was actually captured underneath a moon jelly. It's a baby jack, and as babies they live underneath moon jelly so other critters don't eat them. Schmott. This is kind of a cool picture, but it's also one of the limitations of the TP tank. Sometimes you get fish that don't want to sit in normal fish positions. This is not a normal fish angle. But again, it's dramatic lighting, it's a beautiful eye, it's nice and sharp. I could have cheated and done black paint around on both sides and turned it into a horizontal picture where it would have looked normal. But it's still a beautiful picture, and even though the position isn't a normal position for a fish to be in, it's a nice picture. Not all pictures are nice pictures. This little fish, this is a baby Goliath grouper that's about 1 inch long. This is a fish that can grow 600 to 800 pounds. And I scooped this up off the dock right behind our learning center. And this is one of the challenges of the TP tank. The sides and the bottom are covered in silicone to seal it. So unless you have a fish that sits perfectly still in the middle of the tank, chances are it's going to want to go to the side or to the bottom where the silicone is. So you have to gently move it or coax it to get it into position close to where you want it. I don't have an assistant, so it's kind of one hand on the camera, one hand on the little pokey thing. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's important. This is all part of the process. It's all part of the learning. Sometimes you have critters that are too big to fit in the TP tank, and that's why I have the little 2-gallon aquarium over there. This is, again, not a good picture by any means, but it's an illustrative picture, so it's good to talk about. I still haven't figured out how to deal with an animal like this, with an animal that is too big and too mobile and loves to go into the corner where there's lots of silicone visible. But if you have a critter that's big, too big for the TP tank, that is relatively sedentary, you can still take nice pictures of it. And actually, this is a little bit of a video, so if we could go a little cursor. So with just a little bit of motion, you can pick up all sorts of details. I didn't know, and I've been seeing urchins for a long time, I didn't know how many different types of suction cups or different types of grabbers they have, and just watching this video, it looks like they've got 2 or 3. So, just a little point-and-shoot camera set up right next to that 2-gallon tank. Again, black background, decent lighting, and sometimes things work really well. This is a fish that wouldn't sit properly in the TP tank. It's a bottom-dwelling fish, and it just wouldn't get into a natural position. So I took the 2-gallon tank and put a 1/2 inch of sand on the bottom, and when I put an inch of water over top of that and let that little fish go in there, it buried itself. It was comfortable, and I could shoot away. This is a baby stargazer, and again, it's a decent picture. There's a little bit of gloss off its face, but how many of us don't get glossy when we get flashes on our faces too? This is a fish that has electrical glands between its eyes, and if it feels threatened, it can actually create a decent shock in the water. We'll see this critter again in a little bit. This is called a pistol shrimp. This real big claw is designed for creating a shock wave which will stun its small prey, and you can grab them and have them over for dinner. I have this picture, this same animal on a white background to do a contrast in a little bit. This critter is small enough and thin enough that that high intensity fiber optic light actually makes it look like it's glowing. So the light is really lighting up its body. A couple years ago, I was fortunate enough to go on a workshop with David Lichtschwager, who's a National Geographic photographer, huge inspiration of mine for a number of years. And he gave me one of his biggest secrets, well, not really a secret, but a technique for doing his style of photography. He does macro photography of bugs, fish, whatever. He's my hero. So one of the secrets is using a little glass-type dish called a watch glass, which looks like a really big contact lens, and I've got some of them over there. And by having illumination underneath and from above, you can have animals in water, and it looks like they're completely just suspended in white space. If you get the lighting right, if you get the angles right, if the animals are cooperating, lots of big ifs to get to the following pictures. So when I first set this up, I always set up the dry watch glass with a really funky shell or a bolt, something that has depth and texture. So I can make sure I've got the lighting right before I put the critters in there, because I want the animals exposed to the least amount of flash as possible. So I'll pop this shell with flash all day long and only take a couple pictures of an animal, because the flash can be really intense. And if you use too much flash on animals, you end up with pictures like this. That's just a bad joke. That was an X-ray of 3 fish called look-downs. But it's a really cool picture. Anyway, this is a little porcelain crab. This is a crab that could hide on and underneath a dime. It's as thin as a dime. Watch glass is really good for a little critter like this. The curvature of the glass kind of helps keep them towards the middle if they're not really mobile, which sometimes this animal was. This part down here is a tail, and it can open and close it really quickly and swim backwards through the water. But for this millisecond, it was sitting nice and still for me. This is a variety of sea slug called a warty dorid, and this is what happens when the animal is thicker than the depth of the water in your tank. And you end up with flash glaring off its body. It's not a horrible distraction in this image, but again, it's a good sort of teaching thing that let me know when I'm taking pictures of these guys, I want them completely submerged in water to avoid that flash. Pygmy sea cucumber. David Lichwager has more money invested in his tripod and all that other stuff than I have in all of my gear combined. He's got these really nice racks that hold his flashes, and he can control the angle and keep it set. I hold mine with my hands, and I'll take a variety of different angles to get what I consider the most dramatic lighting. If you've got two 45-degree angles, you're going to have, it's going to be more flat. But when you've got an animal with lots of texture and lots of fun bits like that, dramatic lighting or more angular lighting can lead to a pretty cool picture. Occasionally I come across mutants. This is supposed to be a 5-armed sea star, but it's got an extra one. And one of the benefits of this style of photography on a white background that's illuminated from underneath is you pick up transparency in bodies that you wouldn't otherwise see on a dark background, and that can be really interesting and dramatic as well. And this is what happens when the critter swims out of the picture. You can end up with some really psychedelic and abstract pictures. This is the pistol shrimp, and it's upside down. This is its big claw, this is the small claw, and in the time that it took me to look through the shutter, look through the viewfinder and push the shutter, it knew something bad was happening and it took off. So that can be one of the limitations of the watch glass. If you've got an animal that's a little bit bigger and a little bit more mobile, you've got to make sure that it has a crash pad if it's going to be flying out of the little tank and doesn't end up on a hard floor. But it decided to calm down and let me get this nice picture of it instead. So this is the same animal, same type of animal that we saw on the black background, that the body was really kind of glowing. I like them both. They both have different merits to it. But one of the things that I really like about on the light background is the detail that you can see in the almost hair-like structures around these animals' bodies. A baby spiny lobster. This came from a bait shop on Marco Island. Again, my permit allows me to have undersized species, and they knew I was looking for fun stuff, and it came in with their bait delivery, and so I got to take some cool pictures of this one. This is back to the TP tank, and one of the things that I thought of recently to avoid the situation where the fish go all the way down at the bottom is, we'll put some sand down there. Give them something to sit on. Once they settle down on the bottom, they're going to be more comfortable and more willing to let me harass them with my camera. This is a little bit underexposed on the head, but that's okay, because to me, the detail in the fins is really more the story. This is a fish that full grown is 2 inches long. This is what a fish that's 2 inches long is thinking. If the fish is comfortable, you can get really close to them and really get some nice pictures. So I got better lighting on its head, got right up on top of it with my macro stuff, and beautiful eyes that you just wouldn't see otherwise. This little friend, tiger goby, this one is half the size, full grown, this one's 1 inch long. Almost done. one of the coolest critters on the planet, a mantis shrimp. This guy's too big to fit in the TP tank, so I had to use the 2-gallon aquarium. And for this one, this was a problem-solving thing for me too. I'm in my office by myself. I have this 2-gallon aquarium. How am I going to suspend it so I can get light underneath it as well as light from above to get the effect that I want? Looking around my office, what can I use? I've got a garbage can and I've got a recycling bin. I was going to use the recycling bin, but the recycling bin was blue. And what might happen if I put a flash in a blue box? You could end up with a blue tint on the image, correct? That's what I figured. I didn't try it, but I went with the black garbage can, and it gave me the barn door effect where it kind of focused the light up and gave me what I wanted. So again, it's problem solving. It's just trying to see what works, and if it doesn't work, it's just digital space. And lastly, this is a little critter that would fit in the palm of your hand. It's called a short-fingered neck crab. I don't know why. But he's got a whole group of other critters that are living on him. These things that look like tumors on there, it actually placed them on there itself. They're colonial animals called tunicates, which are the closest related invertebrates to us. These things that are growing on it are believed to be more closely related to us than the crab itself. Strange but true. It also has these little feather-like structures on there that are called hydroids, and they're animals with stinging cells. So this guy's not only got camouflage with the tunicates, but it's got other organisms living on it that will help sting and protect it. So there is an amazing variety of life out here in our local nearshore waters, and David Lichwager has been a huge inspiration of mine to try to capture these images and share just some of the amazing beauty that's out here. So I just want to say thank you all for your attention, and I'm going to be hanging around kind of afterwards. If anybody's got any questions, come up and ask me then, and that'll kind of let us keep things rolling on track. So thank you all for your time.
Slideshow. Take the microphone down so we can all see it.
Sunlight filters through the shadows, watercolor pictures stain the sky. Watch as the world's burning, as the cotton candy clouds spin by. Red and yellow, orange, purple, a little bit of green. Life's not really all she seems. Just another day in this watercolor world, and the stars unfurl. Sitting on a tin roof on the edge of the sky, watching watercolor people floating by. In my world, step so light across the door, sun hits you from behind. And as I watch in black and white fascination, the shadow becomes mine. And some in twos, but so many of us alone. We weave this tapestry. We dance the steps that we've been shown, the lines that are ours to sing. Sitting on to roof on the edge of the sky, watching watercolor people floating by. I spread my wings and I'm an eagle in the sky. Watching watercolor people floating by in my world. Sitting on the roof on the edge of the sky, watching watercolor people floating by. I spread my wings and I'm an eagle in the sky. Watching watercolor people floating by in my world. Sunlight filters through the shadows, watercolor pictures stain the sky. Watch as the world's burning as the cotton candy clouds spin by.
Once I bathed in the green of your eyes. Once I slept in the blue of your sighs. Was it only a watercolor dream? Once you played with the gold in my hair. Once you lived for the blush of my stare. What happened to our watercolor dream? Now your kisses come only in shades of gray. Cloudy and faded, they wash away. Black and white leftover dreams can be cruel that way. Tell me, where is that rainbow of bliss? Should I search for a light in the mist? Was it only a watercolor? I awaken and soon discover that I've lost my watercolor dream. Once I bathed in the green of your eyes. Once I slept in the blue of your sighs. Was it only a watercolor dream? Once you played with the gold in my hair. Once you lived for the blush of my stare. What happened to that watercolor dream? Now your kisses come only in shades of gray. Cloudy and faded they wash away. Black and white leftover dreams can be cruel that way. Tell me, where is that rainbow of bliss? Should I search for a light in the mist? Was it only a watercolor? I awaken and soon discover that I've lost my watercolor dream. My watercolor dream. My watercolor dream.
It's crazy, a hazy smile on my face all day. It's you I have been dreaming of. Are you a myth? Are you ideal? An image my heart made real. I'm floating in a watercolor love. Hear how my heart is beating, beating much too fast. Afraid the glow won't last beyond tonight. And still the sky is clear, the moon and stars are here, whispering forever. We'll be together in a watercolor love. It's crazy, a hazy smile on my face all day. It's you I have been dreaming of. Are you a myth? Are you ideal? An image my heart made real. I'm floating in a watercolor love. See how the world is spinning, spinning much too fast. The night will soon have passed
Okay, 13. That's a good number. It's a lucky number. Okay, the first one is 8122. 8122. Very good. Go on up. Okay, Ross, I need some tickets. Right. Track of them here. All right. The next number, okay, is 8148. I hear a lot of grunts and groans. 8148. There you go, Jim. Very good. And as soon as Jim pulls his, the next one will be 8116. 8116. That's you. Get up there and get yours. And the next one, 8430. Gee, very good. A little excitement there. That's good. Our next meeting will be on October the 13th. So Jim Zuckerman's going to be here on the 1st. He's here before our meeting, so try and talk that up and promote it as much as you can. We'll be sending out some emails to boot. 8147. Bingo. Nancy. All right. You have to take your shoes off? There you go. Oops. Thank you. 8150. 8150. Don't be bashful. Just dash up there and get it. And our next slideshow theme is shadow play. That would be pretty interesting. Eight, 117. Hey, Christina, very good. Hopefully we got the right number of tickets here. 6, 7, 13. It should work. Did a good job. Between us, we'll get through this, right? All right. 8128. Very good. Before we reach the end, I want to remind you, if you would tuck your strings into the badge, I would appreciate it very much. All right. 8134. 8134. And the next one, 8119. You get excited or anything, right? Not just go on a "we trust you." What's a souvenir?